In the scorching heat of the desert, the Israelites stood on the edge of chaos. After their miraculous exodus from Egypt, the vast, unforgiving wilderness became both their refuge and their prison. The people, once slaves, were now free but found themselves in a new kind of bondage, this time to their own fears, doubts, and desires. Among them, a leader emerged, not by birthright or wealth, but by the sheer force of divine calling: Moses. His leadership, however, was not without its trials. The journey through the wilderness was a crucible that tested the faith, patience, and unity of the Israelites, and Moses at its heart. One of the most striking incidents in this journey is the story of Eldad and Medad, two elders who prophesied in the camp. This event, recorded in Numbers 11, is a pivotal moment that reveals the complexities of leadership, the nature of divine gifts, and the human tendency to resist change. The context of this story is crucial. The Israelites, tired and hungry, had complained bitterly to Moses about their lack of food. In response, God provided a supernatural supply of quail. But this miraculous provision came with a warning. The people's greed and lack of gratitude led to a divine judgment, a plague that struck those who had overindulged. Amidst this turmoil, Moses sought guidance from God. God instructed him to gather 70 elders, who would share the burden of leadership. As the Spirit of God descended upon these elders, they began to prophesy. However, two of them, Eldad and Medad, remained in the camp and prophesied there. When Joshua, Moses' loyal assistant, suggested that these two be restrained, Moses responded with a profound statement: "Would that all the Lord's people were prophets, and that the Lord would put his Spirit upon them." Numbers chapter 11, verses 29. Moses' response is a radical expression of spiritual egalitarianism. He understood that leadership and divine gifts should not be hoarded but shared. This vision of inclusivity stands in stark contrast to the human tendency to guard power and privilege. It is a reminder that true leadership is not about maintaining control, but about empowering others. Moses' willingness to share his spirit, even with those who might challenge his authority, demonstrates a depth of humility and trust in God's providence. However, not everyone shared Moses' vision. In the very next chapter, we see a stark example of the human resistance to this kind of leadership. Miriam and Aaron, Moses' own siblings, spoke against him because of his Cushite wife and his exclusive relationship with God. Their complaint was rooted in jealousy and a desire for their own importance. They questioned whether God spoke only through Moses, suggesting that they, too, were worthy of divine communication. God's response was swift and severe. He called them to the tent of meeting and made it clear that Moses was unique in his relationship with God. Miriam was struck with a skin disease, a visible sign of her sin. The contrast between Moses' reaction to Eldad and Medad and God's response to Miriam and Aaron is instructive. Moses, in his humility, was willing to see the good in others, and even to wish for a broader distribution of the Spirit. Miriam and Aaron, on the other hand, were consumed by their own desires for recognition and power. Their complaint was not just about Moses' wife. but about the perceived imbalance of spiritual authority. God's judgment on Miriam serves as a warning against the dangers of pride and the importance of recognizing the unique callings and gifts of others. The story of Eldad and Medad and the subsequent rebellion of Miriam and Aaron highlight several important themes. First, they underscore the importance of humility in leadership. Moses' willingness to share his authority and to recognize the gifts in others is a model of servant leadership. Second, they illustrate the tension between the divine call to inclusivity and the human tendency towards exclusivity. Finally, they serve as a reminder of the consequences of jealousy and pride, and the need for trust and obedience to God's will. In the end, the journey through the wilderness was not just a physical one, but a spiritual one. It was a journey of transformation, where the Israelites and their leaders had to learn to trust in God and to live in community. The stories of Eldad and Medad and of Miriam and Aaron are not just historical accounts, but timeless lessons in leadership, humility, and the nature of divine gifts. As we navigate our own journeys, these stories offer guidance and wisdom, reminding us that true leadership is about empowering others, and that the path to unity and faith is often paved with humility and trust. In the scorching heat of the desert, the Israelites learned that the greatest leader is the one who can see the potential in others, and the one who is willing to share the burden of leadership. And in the end, that is the lesson that endures.